the stream, and it is green. Green is good.
Green is good, especially when it comes to crypto. It's really
it is the best.
It's extraordinary. There it is. I just got the alert.
Man,
Beautiful.
that was awesome. It was easy for all those that are tuning in on a recorded video, on the recorded stream, or the recording of the stream. We are waiting for a few people to jump in, and I'm looking for my video on my phone so I can actually monitor what's going on and make sure we're not getting any lag or anything like that, all that good stuff. So far we've got XRP Carolina in and Moon something. Let's say Moon Chicken.
This is weird.
I think we're good. We're live, and I think we're having a little bit of, oh, you're lagging a little bit. I'm okay. There we go. I think we're good. Yeah, I think we're live. We should be good. We should be live all the way around. Let me.
That's weird, but I don't see it on my desktop yet, which is odd because I always see it popping up there. I did get the notice on my phone, but obviously I'm on.
Yeah, the delay on the computer is definitely a little bit slow. I'm getting the notifications on my phone before I get them on the YouTube online. So those are the issues we have to deal with.
Weird. But I do see some video of a kid. He looks like he's about 8 years old doing a Metallica cover. So I want to check that out later.
All right.
I get some crazy stuff.
All right, so we've got, let's see, got XRP Carolina, Moon Chicken, Doc Column, Michael Mesner, Julie, Lore, DNI sent me, awesome. DNI sent Michael Mesner. We are live. We're having a conversation here, and everyone's popping in. Let's see here. KW, DNI sent you as well. Alex Yeet. DNI sent you as well, so that's awesome. People are going to start popping in here. Let's see who else we got. It's funny, everything's popping up on my phone before it pops up on my chat box over here on the computer. I don't know if the thing's just delaying a little bit. Are you guys getting any lag? It looks like I'm getting a little bit of lag on my end. I'm trying to figure out what could potentially be lagging us out a little bit.
It's probably me.
Are you getting lag just in the video, or are you guys getting lag in the audio? The good thing is that Chip's audio is good. But you're not coming through your microphone? Are you coming through the
Well, no, but thanks to you, I did fix the microphone issue. I'm pretty sure 99.67% sure I fixed it, but Jeff was helping me troubleshoot it earlier. I was pretty frustrated about that, guys, last night. It was nasty. Horrible. Horrible. What is going on?
I don't know.
With
I'm getting the same thing. I'm not even getting the notifications here on my desktop. Everything on my end, too. Just slowed down. Yeah, I don't know. Are you guys getting lag on the video? Okay, at the Mo. All right. Well, I'm gonna let's get started here. Got DNI just popped in. Somebody else here who said KW said, I heard you're better than DNI. DNI sent me. Got
DNI. No one's better.
Richter, what's up, man? Got Tina Hall in. Hey, did you hear there was a rumor that that Tina Hall is starting the Hall report to start investigating DNI? Yeah.
What? Sounds interesting. Hey, I don't want to get into anything weird, but let's not talk about a butterfly landing on a buffalo. I mean, because that's chaotic. I'm sorry. I was just playing because DNI. I happened to go into a stream when he was talking about a butterfly landing on a buffalo.
What happens when a butterfly lands on a buffalo? No.
Don't know.
Never heard that. That's interesting, though. I like that.
I don't know. I didn't. He said it was like a chaos theory. It's like just putting some stuff together. I think just using it to explain a larger concept. But I don't know, man. I was going to look at the chat, but there's no chat over here.
Man, he's flying. He's flying blind.
Nothing. But let's jump into it. I don't see you. All I know is I see amazing people out there, and I see you and you. I see
awesome. Chaos theory. DNI said it is the chaos theory. Awesome. Hey, Auburn
Chaos
Rain just
theory. There
popped
you
in,
go.
and FYI to everybody jumping in now, and we'll mention it later, but 10 p.m. on Friday night, I'm going to be on the Auburn Rain show, better known as Rain.
Yes. Rain here. Let me put the giant headphones on. Put the cans on my head. Rain.
All right.
Here.
So, man, we're getting all this lag. I'm jumping around on my phone. Are you guys getting lag on the audio or just on the video? The video, that's kind of cool. I like that max headroom look. Seems to be a plague. So, all right, let's jump into this. We got like 30 people here, and they don't want to hear us just talk about nonsense. But we could talk about the chaos theory because I'm really interested in this chaos theory.
It's chaotic. Okay, we're golden now. I see the chat. I'm going to be monitoring that, and let's go, Jeff. Hey, thank you for having me on the show, man. Always a privilege and a pleasure. And okay, and I'll throw it to you. And now, Jeff from the HODL Report.
Sure, look at that.
You're there.
Just like that.
Yeah.
I'm getting unresponsive
like
pages popping up, and I think that's part of the problem. Man, Microsoft sucks. All right, did I just say that? Everything's crashing.
Yes, you did.
There we go.
But you'll know that Excel also. But it's good to know that Excel finally has some. I don't know what do they do so with crypto and Excel. I don't know what that was. It was weird.
Every time I deal with this, it always reminds me why I left Microsoft products behind. Need to figure this out. What a
the video's lagging, so don't worry.
You guys want to talk about crypto, or do you guys want to just hear some random chat? So what I really want to, what does he want to talk about?
Matt Richter wants
the Crypto Cafe.
Crypto Cafe.
Now, if you guys, that's right. If you guys all come down to Florida, then we'll do a Crypto Cafe meetup bash party. Yeah, a huge bash. At the Crypto Cafe. We can make it an all-day affair. We're going to have speakers from morning till evening talking about XRP and other digital assets that have nothing to do with Bitcoin. Yeah,
I like it. It works for me. And we were invited, so I think we just got to do some logistical things on that front. But it's funny. I keep running into people that are from down here. And then there's other people that say, hey, I might come down for that. I might fly in for that. There's people that might. So if we get it going enough ahead of time, get some confirmation, maybe we can get some people. We can have our own little mini meetup.
That'd be sweet.
That would be fun.
That'd be sweet.
I'm psyched about that.
Man, awesome, having these the headphones on kind of bothers me a little bit. I used to having the little dangly things while we're talking, but got to get used to that. Anyhow, all right. So I wanted to start today's show off kind of with a bang, because I think as we get into it, we can just kind of BS for the next hour, or we can talk about some serious stuff. So I figured that it would be great to talk about some serious stuff. And the one highlight that keeps popping up over and over and over again in this growing space of digital assets and blockchain, and we see the development on the crypto exchanges, but central banks seem to truly be really reeling from the existence of digital assets, and you keep seeing these different articles popping up. In my opinion, the central banks are really running scared. They're seeing the potential of digital assets, and now, as they are seeing that, they're trying to either attack the crypto space with a little bit of FUD, or they're trying to shut it down completely, as we see in other countries, like over in India. But really, at the end of the day, I think, these central banks specifically are really afraid of losing their long-term monopoly, that they've held for centuries. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of when I think about central banks, think about the Fed. I wouldn't say scared, but I think that they've held on to this system that's really based on debt and control for such a long time. I agree with you, man. There's a lot of FUD going on. I have a feeling that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I lost you for a second. No, when I look at that, I think that there's a lot of, the way the system works, it's built on massive control, right? And so when you think about central banks, I don't think they're necessarily doing any country, anybody any favors, right? There's no real upside of it. And when you see the digital assets come in, we go back to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin had the original, they're trying to alleviate governments and bypass them and be able to do all this, stuff. Because that 60 Minutes story pretty much focused on that. But if we fast forward to now, I do think there's a little bit of fear in the air, because I do feel like, either they're either going to adopt or they're going to become obsolete. And we could probably get into some other things, what we think is going to happen here in the U.S. and how things are going to affect worldwide. But that's just my call on the way I see with the, these central banks. Look, there's always going to be some combative stuff out of the gate. They're going to look like they're getting in line, and rah, rah, rah. But you're right. There's some FUD that gets put out there, and basically they're trying to just kind of mix it up a little bit. But it doesn't seem like I'm seeing total adoption from their side. Like, where are you on this, Jeff?
I see a couple scenarios. I see one scenario where these digital asset exchanges begin to either buy out small banks in order to get into the banking space, or I start seeing these larger banks starting to buy exchanges in order to get into the digital asset space. The central bank, on the other hand, I think is a slightly different animal, and like you said, with the Fed and the way it's really manipulated and monopolized, by these larger bank families, similar to what we saw within JP Morgan. And that kind of FUD, they're afraid to lose their control, just like we saw over in India, that entire debate. So I believe that from the banking perspective, they're beginning to identify and realize that groups like Binance, like Coinbase, like Gemini, like Uphold, they're definitely moving into a position that they're generating such a huge amount of cash flow that it's not that far-fetched that they start buying out these banks. And I think, the banks are seeing that. The central banks are definitely identifying that, because if these big exchanges start buying out banks, then they become central banks, essentially. Now they have ultimate control. But the amounts of money that they've made in such a short period of time, in my opinion, is the one thing that the central banks are always targeting, in the general public. And you see it, over history, when the general public finds a methodology to generate large sums of cash, it always gets shut down. We saw that with the high tech boom. We saw government intervention until they burst the bubble, when Al Gore and Bill Clinton went after Microsoft for antitrust violations, and that was the pinprick that burst the bubble. Now, you can make an argument that at that time, the companies, there was too much money, and there were in companies that had almost no value and had no product. So, but at the end of the day, is it really anybody's business if I decide to put $1,000 or $1 million into a company that I'm speculating on? Is it the government's business to try to shut me down? Does that in and of its own, create this bubble that is, inevitably has to be, burst by, the financial institutions or by the government? Or do you let the markets kind of dictate the movement? And in my opinion, I think you let the governments or you let the markets dictate the movement. And in the case of the high tech, scenario, it was exactly that lawsuit that triggered the bursting of this bubble and artificially, led to the collapse of the high tech boom. And then we saw the same thing with the housing crisis, but there was a lot of other things that were going on with that. Again, you saw government intervention, but then when they realized that they were trying to force banks into lending out to people that couldn't afford it, and then other entities started taking advantage of that scenario to make money, and it became a rampant scenario. But then the government had to try to shut that down too. Obviously they made a lot of errors, but I think when you go back and you look at it, there's always this government manipulation or involvement at some level, whether it's allowing for it to happen or it's attempting to shut it down. It's a difficult scenario, but again, in my opinion, at the end of the day, it comes down to being able. It comes down to control. Being able to control the ebb and flow of the economy and the financials. I don't know if that's far fetched,
Yeah.
but that's.
I don't think so, but I think what we see time and time again is just history continuously repeating. We continually repeat the past, right? The mistakes were made, mortgage crisis, meltdown, like you talked about, and guess what's happening again? So what you're seeing is like HUD, which is federal housing, that runs FHA loans. They're ramping everything up again. So we're starting to see what caused the big meltdown that happened right late 2000s with the loosening of the restrictions on who can qualify for a mortgage. I get news on it every single day where I continually see, are we crazy? Do we have short memories? Or why are we opening it back up again and heading down the same path? And you see that like the dot-com boom. The dot-com boom is like, it's like you almost see that today in fintech, right? So back when I had my startup and we were looking for money, we got shot down by like 60 some different VC, a lot of angel investors. They said our market was too small. It was $40 billion, right? But meanwhile, they would turn around in maybe the fintech space on a very small niche type of a play and go ahead and fund some money. But what you see happening now, it doesn't seem, and I wanted to play to your point there, Jeff, that it doesn't seem too dissimilar when you had, hey, pets.com and concrete.com, anything you put a .com after, and then like, boom, there's $40 million. Let's get, amazing, tables, chairs. Let's put pool tables in. Let's put saunas in. Let's throw giant parties. But how are you guys going to make money? Oh, we haven't gotten to that yet. But it's kind of weird. It's like now you're seeing VC money. It's a little bit smarter. You can't just, say, hey, we're a fintech company, we're solving this problem. But it's great. If you look at the amount of money that's flowing into fintech, specifically on the crypto side, it's really exciting. But I like what's happening because I do feel like some of with the mistakes that happened with maybe the .com is being a little bit more corrected, especially funding companies, having a real kind of a use case in front of them. And let's face it, there's no better use case than XRP. But yeah, there's a lot of this is going around. You think about the whole central banks. I look at the Federal Reserve. I think it was might have been XRP DT in my stream last night that asked about, and I'll pose this question to you. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think the U.S. is going to push to go back to the gold standard? Because in '71 when Nixon took the United States off, we were gold backed. It meant something. Then it was basically a license to start printing fiat currency known as the reserve dollar, and that whole kind of thing that got orchestrated. So what's your call on that?
That's a good question. It's a good point. Before I answer that, yes to Michael Mesner, Ben Romack, Scotch, organic. I had to answer that one. Sorry. But now
Scotch is important.
Scotch is actually more important than discussing whether or not we're going back to the gold standard. So, I would like to think that we're going back to a form of the gold standard. I don't know, is there another mechanism of which to, prop up, our fiat currencies and create value? Is there enough gold in the world? Obviously they can, you can see an increase in the value of the ounce of gold. I think that could be important. I believe that our currency, if you're going to hold a fiat currency, it needs to be backed by more than just a promise of the government, to uphold that value. And so, it needs to be exchanged for something. And so, we're starting to see as a direct, comparison, you're starting to see, these stable coins or whatever they might be, that have to be backed by, and typically backed by a US dollar. And so there's a scenario, where they're trying to create value based on something that is of value, but really doesn't have value, unless it all goes back to the US government upholding the fact of that value and all the people accepting that value at the at the face of whatever, of that denomination that you're being handed. But I think that, as we move forward into this digital age, we're going to have to really, expand on, what we're backing our currencies with. So, could we back it with digital asset? Is digital asset enough to back up a currency? Because if we're going to make the argument for a fiat currency to be backed up by gold, then we'd almost have to make that same argument to say that digital assets need to be backed up by precious metal as well, and it would have to be of value based on gold. So can we rely on? And this is, I think it's an interesting discussion because it also goes into potentially into some of the discussion that DNI is having about the IMF adopting digital asset, as a mechanism almost to replace the SDR. Obviously, that has a different, different use case, but still, they're creating value. And I don't know if any of that makes sense. But at the end of the day, I don't know if it's the right thing to do to limit ourselves to back by only gold. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I kind of agree. Well, yeah, I think you're right. And I think let's shift it a little bit. Let's take a look at when we look at like precious metals. You have gold, silver, bronze, right? In the precious metals, there's copper, there's a whole bunch of them, and there's a certain hierarchy that we probably put them in. Gold being obviously a standard. And this might be kind of weird, but I mean, let's look at cryptocurrencies. So if you kind of look at the leaders right now, I almost equate Bitcoin to the gold, right? So Bitcoin gold, been around forever. It's kind of has that it sort of has that holding power, and then as value, it doesn't have much use case to it. Like let's look at, I mean, it doesn't, if you take copper, I mean, obviously copper has a lot of uses. Silver, they can be used. We see that pretty much show up in our phones everywhere. So there's you think about it like that, there's other use cases for that. Gold too to some extent, but cost that may be prohibitive on some ends. But on the copper side, and recently this whole conversation pulled up where you saw China saying that, hey, what do they call it? There's a term for it, Jeff, when they actually they control 1/3. They call it the rare earth, I believe it is, the rare earth, which are these precious metals, that they mine. The funny part about it is they only control a little less than 1/3, but they basically control the marketplace because they flood the market real cheap. Everybody goes out of business. Then they go ahead and raise prices again. And if we're looking at like, we saw a gold standard. I kind of think of Bitcoin as being like right now, and I think this is going to change. I do believe that XRP will overtake it. There's just too much opportunity. I mean, I don't think there'll ever be more than 17 million, maybe 17.5 on the Bitcoin side. So, and we're sitting on 100 billion, right? There's a lot more, and it doesn't have to rise that much to really overtake it. But I still don't. What I'm baffled by, we can talk about what it's backed by, but what I'm baffled by is even with the Lightning Network, I don't see they're trying to take proof of work slow, and eventually I think 2040 something, when it's all mined out, when it's completely, that's your supply chain, that's all your coins. I just don't see how they're going to try to put that into a payment system. It just doesn't make any sense to me, especially it doesn't solve the liquidity issue. And when we saw Sean Schaefer brilliantly capitalized, and on the, we did the XRP torch. They had the lightning, what was it called? The lightning rod? I don't know, something like that. But basically it burned out because it didn't have the liquidity. So this is one of the issues. And, one of the things I talked about last night, and somebody wrote in one of the Reddits where they put in something in there and they said something like, hey, somebody told me I kind of went on blind faith and I went and took money, and I took my, BTC or whatever it was, ETH, and I was able to move it really quickly. And it was almost like the disbelief, right? And I think a lot of that's going to capture the world. People are going to be in disbelief, and they're going to say like, hey man, I remember you telling me about that. Everybody, they're going to say, you told me about that, but it just didn't register. And I think once that comes into fruition, I think it's going to be a complete shock and awe campaign. So I'm not really 100% sure. Digital assets are, I think 2 years from now, 3 years from now, blockchain is going to be so important with everything, and just the transparency nature of it. Think about this. If there's a hack on any one of the big, your Googles, your Apples, your Amazons, it's all sitting in one location. I mean, they may have some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? They have multiple places, but basically it's one database. And versus something on the blockchain that can easily be done. So I mean, I don't know how that's going to play out. I actually think when I see criticism coming from the president in the U.S. here, constantly hammering the Fed, and then you have Yellen who doesn't want an audit. Now, we've been hearing about an audit of the Federal Reserve for as long as I can remember. And it's so funny that we never get an audit. So what would an audit actually show? If we actually got the peek behind the curtain and looking at Oz back there with his, hitting his little buttons and everything, what are we actually going to see with an audit? I mean, and do you think an audit will ever happen?
I think that's an interesting point. I just want to throw some out real quick. Omar, thanks for the $1.99 tip. He said that we need to split it. So we're gonna
and also too, Rain did a 589 on the
nice,
bot, so
nice.
So thank
you. I put up. There's 2 tip bots up there. So you got one on either side. You got Chip's tip and mine over
Chip's
there.
tip.
I like that. See, maybe they should just rename that the Chip tip. The
Chip tip. Well, when I eventually get this going, and when you end up on my stream, I'll call it Chip Chat. We got the Chip Tip.
See?
It's all rhyming, awesome. Man. It's all rhyming. It is awesome, yeah.
So, So, man, I think what's crazy about the this everything that's going on, and you look at the potential conflict of trying to audit the Fed. There's a lot of history with the Fed. There's a lot of powerful families that back the Fed, so that's a battle, and we're seeing a lot of it unfold right now, so all this nonsense that's going on in the media, again, just put up there to divide and conquer the people, whereas you've got the head of state, Trump, who's just being continuously hammered by the media, and he's definitely at odds with the Fed, with the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve, and I was reading back on, how it was an interesting article on, how they've adjusted the interest rates. And really, in the article, they were saying the Fed actually adjusted the interest rates higher than most people realized, over time. And they have something called a shadow rate, which is, I was trying to get into and trying to understand what the shadow rate was, but it's almost like hiding the reality of what they've been doing on the back end, and if, and you get into it. And so, we saw, under Obama, the interest rates were basically at zero, and so we have a recovering economy that was, slow, real slow drawing, over an 8-year term. And it just dragged on and on and on. But yet we were at 0% interest rate, and then under Trump, just as the economy was starting to get some steam, the Federal Reserve started to increase the interest rates a little bit too fast, and it set the economic recovery almost into a tailspin. Trump was butting heads with them, they pulled back and they brought the interest rates down, and now there's indication that that our GDP is going to decrease. Probably, over, between now and the end of the year. But then we're also going to see the Fed is going to have to act and drop interest rates even further. So there's always that manipulation. But like you said, why is it that the Federal Reserve has so much power? Who gave them all that power? Why do we continue to allow them to have that much power? And what is the direct threat that they see, from digital assets and blockchain in general, that they'd be afraid of, So if you want to audit the Fed, put the entire Federal Reserve on a blockchain, and allow for full transparency. Now we'll see what's happening, but they don't want that to happen. And that's where, you know, the one article that kind of got me, you know, thinking about, you know, tonight's topic anyways. There was this article that popped up on Cointelegraph, and that was, you know, the title of it: "The President of Germany's Central Bank Warns of Serious Outcomes of Digital Currencies." You know, so, you know, they're worried, you know, but they're worried about themselves. They're not worried about, you know, this other stuff, because whatever they're saying is basically opinion, you know. And so, you know, just because they happen to be in the financial space, you know, doesn't mean that they understand digital assets or the impact of digital asset for digital asset's sake. But they do understand the impact if that asset class grows and and these exchanges grow exponentially. They definitely see the direct threat, you know, to their existence and their financial wealth.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to address, there's a couple comments in here that I wanted to hit on. And like, for example, Matt Richter put in your drain the swamp. And, you know, you may have heard this, drain the swamp. I mean, really, when we talk, I mean, it's a fun little cutesy phrase for, there's a lot of stuff that's been going on. You have, you know, a lot of the government in the control is not what you see. It's not Congress. It's not the president, you know, so it's, you know, it's also referred to as the deep state. But for too many years, I mean, you look at President Kennedy, came out with a really bold speech saying he was going to blow up a certain three-letter organization, and then they take him out. And there was something that, and I actually mentioned this last night, but I wanted to get to this. Jotoshi Kazumoto here said the architects of the Fed sunk the Titanic. So if you guys know this story, there's actually a good documentary out there on this. I haven't seen it yet, but I've also studied a little bit of this. So, you know, so when they were trying to get the Federal Reserve going, the biggest anti-proponents on that, three families and people that spoke out against, were on the Titanic, you know. And part of what there's also another theory that goes, and we're not going to put the tinfoil hats on, but let's just say it looks pretty odd in 1912 when all of a sudden out of nowhere this ship that's supposed to you know, be unsinkable sinks, and then just at the end of the year, December, Congress goes home, and then the president signs in 1913. Boom! All of a sudden you got, so it's kind of an odd timing, and I wanted to bring that up because Jotoshi Kazumoto brought that up about this, and that's a pretty well documented case. And so just think of how long we've been crippled with this. So since 1913, and I don't believe we ever had one audit of the Fed. And meanwhile, you're right. Who gave them the power? We gave them the power. So, and I look at this as not just a U.S. issue. This is a worldwide problem, you know. And I think sovereignty is another issue where, you know, countries have to be responsible for, you know, how they govern themselves. You know, I mean, they want to win. They want to preserve their culture, and they want all this. But what they're really looking out for too in this people say the new world economy. Well, look, it's a global economy. You got to be able to have trade. You got to be able to work with other countries. You know, some are going to be friendly, some are not. But I think it's brilliant to think that if it gets on the blockchain, and what about these central banks? Are they going to be open? I mean, are we going to see every transaction that passes through? You know, I mean, is that going to become something that is going to be fully transparent? Because you're right. That's all you have to do. Like, I'll tell you what, we've got a plan to put the Fed on the blockchain so we can see everything. We don't need an audit because now we see what's happening.
Yeah.
And especially with the interest rates, I don't believe, you know, my feeling is they do not want anybody who comes in, you know, and it happened with Kennedy. You know, when Kennedy came in, was bold, wanted to clean up, had a plan. And nobody takes kindly to that when you're trying to, when the people pulling the strings behind the curtains all of a sudden possibly can get outed. It doesn't matter who it is. I mean, you have a Democrat with Kennedy, you have a Republican with Trump, and I think that anybody wants to take them out. And I think that they wanted to raise rates, and this is where you had Trump bashing heads with them, saying, "Hey, we can't. Our economy's fragile right now. It's in a fragile state." But they wanted to continuously. You saw what they were trying to do. You know, raise it a half point, raise it a quarter point, and I just think that ultimately all countries have the same concerns. You know, we're talking about this because we're in the U.S. There's plenty of folks in here from around the world, and they have the same concerns. You know, they have the similar things going on within their confines of their home country.
Yeah, look at Brexit. You know, I mean, that's the whole purpose. You know, is that, you know, the people need to take back the power, you know, that belongs to them. and the longer you let the governments run amok, the worse it gets. And this travesty of a news day today, with this release of the Mueller report, and really, the mincing of words, and and the way he presented his case after he submitted a 480-page report and spun things in a way that the average mainstream listener would really have no clue and say, oh yeah, I guess there was an issue, but he couldn't, whatever, he couldn't say it. But when you get down to the legalese of it, from a what's right and what's wrong, there was no wrong, there was no proof, there was no evidence. So once again, they're on this witch hunt, but that's the deep state. That's the deep state, in full action. Because if these, if these people in government were really concerned about, illegal action, they would have gone after Hillary Clinton when she illegally destroyed government property, when she illegally destroyed, scores of Blackberries and crushed them with hammers, when they illegally destroyed, servers and lost tens of thousands of emails. That's the crime. They would have called for a immediate trial of John Kerry when he ran over to Iran and illegally and treasonously began to negotiate with the head of a state when he's no longer representing the president of the United States or the government of the United States. Now that's a treasonous act. And unfortunately, the naivete of the general public, and the fact that the mainstream media is beholden to the deep state and takes the marching orders from the deep state, they're going to report on what their agenda is. And this false narrative, and and like you said, we have people from all over the world listening to this stream, but it touches everybody, because what happens here in the United States happens everywhere. And people's countries all over the world are being invaded by outside forces, and really it's impacting everybody, and it's a travesty, and so, and I look at it, from a microcosm, perspective, and this might get a little extreme to some people, but that's the reality. And anything I always discuss is always based on solid fact. I'll never, discuss anything if I can't back it up by fact. And I think it's interesting because here's what Auburn Rain said. He said, we're in the middle of the biggest coup ever tried on a sitting president. And then he said interest rate hikes were on purpose to hurt Trump, but now Trump, has the magic wand. But everything that they've done for the past 2 years has been purposely orchestrated as a coup in order to attempt to topple the president of the United States. And it's so out in the open and so obvious, but yet, most people, I used to call them vidiots, because they just sit around and watch TV and believe anything that they see on TV. I don't know what the term would be today, because you can make that same claim, based on social media, but maybe that's changing too, but this narrative of, Russian bots and Russian manipulation of elections based on posts on Facebook. That's the most absurd thing that I've ever heard, and it's such nonsense, but that's what we've seen in the media. Now you bring that from an economic perspective, and how does that impact all of us with the manipulation of the economies? It's something that all of us, every one of us, anybody who's listening, everybody has to make sure that they're educated, that they understand, and that they vote and get actively involved, with that idea that the responsibility at the end of the day is ours.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing that bothers me about anything, Alan Dershowitz came out, and Dershowitz a long time was, he's a pretty straight shooter, also a Democrat. But one of the things that he said that I thought was pretty interesting was he said this whole thing with Mueller, he's always ascertained that based on what he's seen, that he wasn't seeing anything kind of biased. He wasn't seeing any sort of, and a prosecutor's job is to basically investigate, not to make decisions, not to figure out one way or the other or lead. And he basically said that Mueller, when he came out and did this whole thing on his exit tour, as he was retiring or getting out of there, was showed a very big bias in his hand. And and these are the kind of things, and so it's false narrative. We're talking about propaganda, and the media is brilliant. I see it all around the world. I I got to tell you, I was in up in London when the hurricane hit, and you would have thought that at the time, it wasn't caused by nature; it was caused by a bunch of people and this and that. I mean, the way it was being reported on was just astounding to me. And so you have a very small, what I see as a small group of people. Why do I think this? Because I'm looking at what's happening in Switzerland, what's bubbling up there. The Brexit party has been 3 weeks old, and they had such a firm hold. Once the actual election happens, you got a guy like Nigel Farage coming out and saying, "Hey, if we can't figure this out, wait till the general election comes, and then the shock and awe is going to happen." So I kind of feel like the will of the people is kind of bubbling up, and really, I think it extends to all quarters. And cryptocurrency is part of this. It's part of it because it really is the first time in our lifetimes. If you missed out on other opportunities, I look at digital assets as just a phenomenal. We're at the very beginning. Sometimes I always forget how early we are. But when I look at the propaganda that's being waged around the world by a select group of elite people, I know the Bilderberg came up on DNI stream a little bit. And, when you look at some of these families, we don't have to go through them all. But the bottom line is it's still the elites. There's still a few that are, you want to call them the ruling class or whatever. And how does a politician on a fixed salary who's got to split time between two locations end up becoming a multimillionaire? I mean, yeah, okay, is it inside information? What's actually happening there? Right? I mean, so how does that actually happen? So what I also feel like if you put everything on there, if you're a politician, let's take it a step further. A politician, let's put everything you do on the blockchain. Let's see all your transactions on the blockchain. You're representing the people. You're a politician. You were elected by the people in a democratic republic. You were elected to go serve and represent. So let's not put the Fed on there. Let's put
I agree 100%, man. I think Congress they're calling out the president to show his tax returns and to be further investigated. I think Congress 100%, every one of those scumbags needs to that is calling for impeachment, that is going after him on tax returns. When we know exactly who those people are, it's not every one of them. It's not everybody in Congress, but there's definitely a good group of them that went in there and have been lifetime, representatives. That's been their entire career, has been in Congress. And like you said, they're multimillionaires. Exactly. Where in the world does that money come from? If you remember when Obama went into office, he first gets elected, he came out. That guy, what was he? He was a community organizer. He was a state rep. He was a sitting senator for 2 years before he ran for office. And then as soon as he got elected in, there was or even during the campaign before he got in, they launched his book. And he got $1 million up front. The same thing happened with Hillary. The same thing happened with Bill Clinton. And you can count the list on and on and on. AOC is about to get some sort of a deal, a multi-million-dollar deal, and they get it pushed up front. They don't write these books. They have ghostwriters that write them for them, and they just sign their name on it. And it's commonplace. Ghostwriters write most of the books in the industry. Athletes, actors, politicians, most actors, most athletes are not writing their own books. They put their name on it. They might sit with the writer for a little while, but that's the business of ghostwriting. But the thing is, that's an easy way to transfer wealth, over to people, and it's slightly duplicitous, to have that transfer of wealth. I don't know that that's the right thing. I think that's wrong, especially if they're going to sit there and attack us on our values.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, so look, I don't care if you like Trump, if you like Obama. You got to recognize some certain things that are happening. For me personally, this may seem a little bit odd, but the reason I got into business, and I remember picking up The Art of the Deal, which is a book that Trump basically hit a lot of his principles, but he had a ghostwriter, just like you said, Jeff. I mean, he didn't sit down and pen it all. I mean, there's editors and everything else, but I picked it up and said, I can do this. And then later in the 90s, I basically picked it up again, read it cover to cover, and started executing deals. And so the best thing is, if you really want to understand how this guy ticks, he is the master of deception. So he goes and throws a bomb over there. Everyone runs to it like little squirrels, and agendas are happening over here. But one of the things that I learned, because I did a deal with the Trump organization, flew up to New York, and basically took a deal away from a competitor ready to sign. I said, I will be in your office tomorrow. I wasn't dealing with Trump, but I did know Michael Cohen, and I did talk to Michael Cohen, who is Trump's attorney. And I did spend some time going up there, and I said, give me the shot. Let me go up there. And basically, I used a lot of what I learned in that book about negotiation. And so a lot of times we think about negotiation. Negotiation is an important skill to have. But I look at it like there's so much disinterest. I sometimes think that I don't like the guy. I'm like, I hear so much stuff seeping into it. You're like, the guy's trying to do good things. The economy's doing great. And you're like, let's kill him. There's so much stuff that kind of goes on. And I think that as we start crafting this new sort of economy, we start heading down this road, what's going to be really important is support from the community, right? So everyone's going to do their part. We all think alike. I like to think of the XRP community as I think we're kind of special. We're givers, right? We help out. We have each other's back. We kind of like we'll band together and go out there and somebody gangs up on someone. The BTC Maxis, a couple cool tweets going around today. And there's a lot of these sort of special groups. You see it with Tron, you see it with HODL, you see it with the Litecoin. And I don't know what happened to Bitcoin Ben, but he put out a video today, and I was going to start calling him XRP Ben, because he led with XRP and something else. Are going to have an amazing weekend. I'm like, what is going on out there, people? So when I start thinking about stuff like this, I'm like, what? There's some kind of magic bubbling up. And we probably should head over and talk a little bit about the token taxonomy, how that plays a role. But I think this community is very vital. I think that that you are very vital. Just coming in here, sharing thoughts and ideas, that you make a difference. And as we band together as a community, we have a lot of pull, a lot more pull than people might think. But we're a pretty special community. And I know RTV Dutchie's in here, and I don't know, he always throws a stat at me, but we're tiny. We seem like we're pretty big and out there, but we're a pretty small community. I think it's like something like 0.004 or something like that percent. We're not even 1%ers. We're not even that cool yet. But there's a lot of stuff. Hey, Vet Bro, what's going on? But there's a lot of stuff we can do. So did you mention something? Did you have a meeting?
I do, yeah, tomorrow. I do have a meeting tomorrow with Gottheimer's lead advisor that's going to be responsible for token taxonomy. So I don't want to say too much now. I have some intent in my conversation with him tomorrow. I have some requests in my conversation with him tomorrow. We'll see how that unfolds. My ultimate goal is that Gottheimer become the second that's needed. Hopefully they're already thinking along those lines. And hopefully that's what he says tomorrow. If he doesn't say that, then that's going to be the intent in the conversation, to express how critical it is, regardless of political affiliation, that Gottheimer has to get on board with Warren Davidson as his second. It's not enough just to be a sponsor of. So far the feedback has been pretty amazing. And here it is, crossing all party affiliation, and for me at this point, it doesn't matter. I'm going to reach out to both parties, because that's what's necessary for the Token Taxonomy Act, and see what we can do to help and facilitate, and the thing is, at the end of the day, when they're there in Washington, a lot of this stuff is hype for the media, because they all sit on committees together. They all have to talk together. They all have to, pass bills together, so, this is the stuff that's real, this is, and, so this kind of, one of the other things that I pulled out, I think it's kind of important, because if you think about, what Facebook is doing, we talked a little bit about, Facebook launching their own coin. There's another company out there called Kick. KIK, they're up in Canada. So Kick, yep. I bought some of their tokens back end of 2017, held on to them. Didn't put a ton of money into it, but I bought it just for the hell of it. As I was buying other things, learning about the space. Held on to them. I still need to move them to the new platform. I think I have until June 1st, otherwise I lose them. But anyhow, so there's this great article because here you have the CEO of Kick that is going, full bore to trying to make a change within the U.S. Government regulatory space in terms of how they relate to a digital asset as a security, or how they interpret a digital asset as a security or not. So they've already had their own headbutting, with the U.S. government after they launched their $100 million ICO. So Kick again has KIN, K-I-N. Their initiative at this point is to try to get the U.S. government to change the Howey test, and I thought that was really interesting. So what I really got out of that, there's a couple, really a couple points that I got out of that. One, the reason why I think that they're important in especially when we talk about the Token Taxonomy Act. One, because they're fighting the SEC. They recently launched something called a Defend Crypto Initiative. They've raised, I believe, like $5 million so far into this Defend Crypto Initiative, which is to help other organizations really, fight the fight. And the other point is that, like Facebook, and what Facebook is doing with their 2.4 billion users, and I pulled up another article which was fantastic about why Facebook is doing what they're doing and why it's so important for them to move into the payment space for their existence. But Kick is basically and has been doing the same thing, attempting to monetize and take advantage of their user base. And they were the first social media platform to initiate a token-based payment system. And so they, I don't know if it really has gone anywhere yet, but I think everything's kind of in its infancy. What's interesting, though, is that Kick has about 300 million users and about 15 million are active on a monthly basis. So it's really, it's interesting because I'm trying to open the tab that, and because of Microsoft, it's freezing up here, but I got the tab with the article. I'm trying to get to it and get some of the details.
Yeah, one second,
yeah, go ahead.
Jeff. 1 second. I just wanted to shout out Anthony Jackson. Thank you so much, man, for the sent us both a 5 XRP tip. That's awesome.
Oh, that's
man.
awesome.
Thank you very much. It's very very cool, man. Very
Thanks.
appreciative. And also Auburn Rain, if I didn't say it, or 0.0589. I love that 589 number. So go ahead. I just wanted to jump in there while you're researching that article.
So I highlighted a few things here. So they it was designed to fight the SEC in court. They put it on Coinbase custody, and it has about $5 million in it so far. The direct quote from it says, "The continued challenge for us has been the lack of clarity on the regulatory side." And here it says, Kick has already spent months and millions of dollars on its regulatory journey, which in the U.S. began in earnest in the days following its $100 million ICO. So here they are. These guys are fighting from Canada down into the U.S. to make sure that they're not declared a security, and then to fight. And so you think about a lot of these companies that get into this space, they don't, they have to go out and hire attorneys. They're not really mentally prepared or legally prepared, or they don't really have the knowledge of what it's going to take to fight the SEC. And so this foundation that Kick has set up is pretty amazing. And these guys, you really don't hear from them a lot down in the US. I don't know if anyone really knows about Kick,
Right.
but yet here they are, they're still in existence. For me, I stopped, really paying attention to it. But here they are, revving up the engines again, and they're fighting the fight, and it it fits perfectly into that part of the conversation. It's important.
Yeah. So Crypto Mike says, "Hey guys, David Schwartz put out a tweet recently that I'm sure is telling us that XRP will be at $9 soon. Are you sure it's 9 or is it 900 or 90?
900.
I mean, I like the sound of that.
Say 900.
Yeah,
Sweet.
I'm just saying. Yeah, that was me. That was me. That was him. He said he interpreted it as 9, but you think about that. I mean, Canada's such a great neighbor. They're such a great neighbor in a lot of ways, because guess what? I mean, them coming in here fighting the good fight, I know that they have a vested interest in it, But hey, listen, there's a lot of U.S. companies that have vested interests. They're not ponying up $5 million, and they're not having a U.S. company, Coinbase, out in California that's custody. So, I mean, when I see stuff like this happen, banding together, it's like, hey, this is starting to get real. People are getting excited, and we're sitting here. I did some silly story that Congress has bipartisan support because they're worried about something in video games like the loot boxes. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, meanwhile, we've got something so vitally urgent that could be such an injection. Look at the amount of jobs that are going to be created in this new economy, especially with digital assets. And with bipartisan support, I mean, what else is new? Bipartisan support for the silliest things that there's really not a whole lot of upside or gain. I guess they're easy because they're really not that important enough. But then you go, okay, when it comes to, and we'll see this over in India too. I mean, India blew it up and said, oh, we're going to pass the buck, kick the can down the road. I secretly think they have got to figure it out because there's just too much money moving in and out of India right now. And they've got to figure this out. So maybe you always see this on the front end, like when China goes, oh, we're going to outlaw mining for Bitcoin. Meanwhile, the government's mining so much of this right now, it's a joke. But it's just, it's a little bit of disinformation they're putting out. They're trying to call the attention off of themselves. Meanwhile, they're putting a lot more attention on themselves. I would say, I'm laughing at RTB. It's some funny stuff going on in this chat right now.
I'm trying to stay on top of both, and I missed a lot of the conversation, so I don't know if some of that's related back to what we're saying, the tribalism on both sides. I'm sure it is, but they're,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and here's what's weird. I'm looking up at the time, and I'm like, it's 11 o'clock. How did that happen? We started. Did we start 13 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago? I don't know what it was.
We just got started. So
let's talk about something important. Let's talk about the NBA Finals. Do we think it's going to be a sweep? I mean, do you see, and I know Ajax up in Toronto there, and I was rooting for Toronto going through, especially because I'm a big fan of the East. Obviously, Jeff and I here, Heat fans. We've got the Miami Heat down here, and of course, you root for anybody that you always want the East to win, but the West has been pretty dominant. I'd like to see Toronto compete. I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that, Jeff? I
have no opinion whatsoever on
that. Gotcha. Well, that was pretty easy. Yeah, that was pretty easy. I don't think it'll be a sweep. I really like but who knows, man? They got Kawhi Leonard. I mean, anything could happen. Anyway, I do like basketball, though I've kind of been out of it this year. Anthony Jackson says it's recap time. Oh my God, we covered so many things and didn't cover hardly.
All right, the easy recap is that Friday night, 10 p.m. Auburn Rain. I'm going to be on his channel chatting about some stuff. So apparently we're going to talk more about the Token Taxonomy Act, and it gives a great opportunity also for me to update on the meeting from tomorrow. So. So I think that'll be great.
That's going to be awesome, man.
Yep. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's going to be awesome.
And tomorrow night, you've got your stream. I think your mic is fixed and ready for action.
I think that my mic is fixed, man. There it is. I'm going to stream like this tomorrow night, just like this.
Nice.
No, I think it wasn't my mic. It was you were right. It was somebody called it in the stream. I didn't realize it last night mostly because I was live streaming, but. Yeah, there was something going on, and man, fingers crossed. If I had to pull the plug and put this puppy in my ears, I'm doing it. I'm not gonna have people sit through that pain again.
Yeah, just be ready.
But I'll be on tomorrow night.
Be prepared for the
tomorrow night, off. And I'm looking forward to you being on with Rain. Rain's really been putting together a quality show. It's kind of been like that perfect end to the week. He's been some great topics, great, amazing conversation back and forth. So I'm really excited for you and Rain to kind of get together and. Rain's talking about having me on the show. I think I'm booked for. I think it's November. I think he's got me in November sometime.
I know he's busy. He's got the schedule like jam packed.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I think he says he's going to try to fit me sometime between November and the. Oh, hang on a second. I got some exciting news right here. Are you ready? So 10 XRP from RTV Dutchie. What?
Nice.
You are the man. Thank you, Roy.
That's like $10,000 in future XRP.
He just sent us $10,000. That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Holy cow, that's
Yep.
fantastic.
And DNI says the background looks great. I appreciate that. Let me look. That's actually see what that is. That is I think that's Vegas. Vegas, baby. Vegas.
That's our TB Dutchies. He'll be there, I think, later this year, and we got some people in the community from Vegas. I think who else is from Vegas? I think Zbits 33. I think he's from Vegas as well. But you know, Vegas, you're really close to everything else. What is going on tonight, people? What is going on tonight?
Yeah.
Ready for this, Jeff? We just got a 5 XRP from Crypto
Nice.
Bird
Crypto
Dog.
Bird Dog.
What is up?
That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Sweet.
Whoa, warm my heart. Are you kidding me? This is phenomenal.
Keep going and going.
All right, I think we're on a good streak. Yeah. I think we'll. You guys, do you think it would be awkward or weird if we pulled a DNI right now and streamed till like 8 a.m. in the morning? Is that weird? I'm just
8 a.m. I said we go straight through like Saturday.
Boom, right through, man. I'll cover everybody. I do a 24-hour one. You talk while I.
Be awesome. No, that's great. Hey, you know what? I appreciate. You know, we held strong. People held strong in there with us. You know, for the past hour, it's fantastic. You know, we got a lot of good comments going on. You know, a lot of good side conversations in the chat. You know, I think that's what it's all about. You know, we got some good engaging subject matter. There's a ton to learn. There's still a ton to do. And you know, I'm looking forward to updating everybody on this this conversation that I have tomorrow, and really start planning out for next steps, because you know, this time forward, you know, it's all about trying to get some regulatory clarity and see if we can really have an impact on pushing the Token Taxonomy Act to the next level. And you know, like I always say, you know, it starts at the grassroots level. So
yeah, and yes, Zbits and Sin City are both from Vegas. And Jeff, I don't want this to freak you out at all, but I just want to let you know, all of us here, we're all counting on you, man. Just saying, you know, not too much pressure, but hey, man, you know, kill it tomorrow, crush it, as Gary Vee always says.
Gonna crush it.
And yeah, there's no better person to be in on that than, and nobody has a better hold of what's going on. So, man, we're all behind you in spirit. You know, we're all backing you up, and we'll be waiting to hear, you know, what comes out of that. And no matter what comes out of that, we'll pull together as a community and make some stuff happen. So thank you for having me on the show, man. Always a pleasure, exciting. It just never seems long enough. It seems like we should be able to go, holy cow, another tip.
Oh,
what is
awesome.
going on tonight? This is phenomenal. So, yeah, this is kind of funny. So I know your screen name is different, but from Barbara Snowden 7, 0.5XR 89 XRP. Thank you very much. Then I know she was by Clara T as well, and here I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
That's awesome.
So thank you very much.
That's fantastic.
God. All right, forget about it. We stream till the morning. We stream till the morning.
We're gonna keep it going. That's right.
We're in.
You know, you know what
God,
this shows me too is that a lot of people must be watching off of their phones. You know, I pretty much do everything. I watch all the streams on my phone. And we were talking about this earlier. I don't want to drag us on. We were talking about it earlier, you know, these tip bots and the QR codes. If you're watching on your phone, it's almost impossible to use that tip bot. You have to go to a computer, load it up, and then you can do it. Or a tablet, I guess.
Yeah, right on. And GXRP, just to top it off, says he's hoping that June and July is regulation month. I do feel like it is coming quick, guys, and I think it's going to blow some people away. When we lift off, it's going to take people by surprise. I'm serious. It's going to go up. We're going to blow well past 3. This bull run is going to be significant, and I do think that, you know, it's probably going to be. I just think it's going to be crazy what's going to happen next. But you know what? We prepared for it. We've been through the crypto winter. We're still somewhat, you know, a little bit past it. But look how many people filled their bags when it was 30 cents. You know, instantly, boom, you got, you know, you got an extra 25% plus increase in what you had. So, I mean, you can't argue with that, really, unless you cost average and your cost average is down. But anyway,
hey, in the last couple minutes here before we wrap up, let's finish this off at 8:10 exactly on the dot. And DNI asked any updates on the website.
Tina Hall,
I'm sure someone else said something, but
yeah. Okay. So hang on a second. second. So this is it. This is kind of interesting. So Tina Hall, by the way, Tina Hall, thank you so much for that $1.99. You
Oh, look at that. It just popped
awesome.
up. Oh, that's fantastic.
Everyone is tonight. That really, guys, I'm just phenomenal, guys. Just that, thank you so much to support you being here. And, I love this 10 o'clock. I love the 9 o'clock. I love what DNI's doing. And I think really DNI gets a lot of credit here. You want to know why? Someone has to take 99 cents. I'm going to take it, man. Listen, if there's 99 pennies sitting there, I'm taking it, because you know what that means? That's going to be, think about how many, that's a few XRP, right? 2+ right there. I will take it. That was funny because the last one said you guys got to split that. I was like, that's cool, man. That's cool. But don't worry about that. It's less because, our pals over at Google, they are something. What is going on tonight, Jeff? I got another one here, man. So we got 0.589 XRP from XRP Carolina. Thank you, man. Wow, what a great night, man. This is crazy stuff going on. It's insane what's happening.
It's fantastic.
It's insane. Oh my God, Farshad. What is up? Farshad's in here. He snuck in right under the buzzer, man. Farshad with a $9.99.
Nice.
Holy. All right, let me update the website. So I'll see how to say this. The website's coming along pretty well, but here's what happened. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this. Anyway, the original intent was to have the schedule. The schedule is there. A lot of oh, good Lord. What is going on tonight, Jeff? So we got another XRP tip coming up here. So we've got 0.589 XRP from Connie Stewart.
Man, they're all over the place. Fantastic.
Holy. Thank you so much, Connie. Thank you. This is pretty cool. So I started working on the site, and then it started expanding because I think what we thought about, there's so many great ideas from the community. People knew I was working on it, and they thought about, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And then somebody mentioned, I see what you're doing, Chip. You're kind of putting something together for newbies. They know who the content creators are. They know who the trusted products, the jerseys and where to get the crypto socks and the shirts and all that stuff. And and so it just expanded. So it's going a little bit slower than we thought. And then there's going to be, I don't know if I should say this, Jeff, but should I say something like just tease it a little bit, or should I tease it a little bit?
I don't know. There's another project. It's another project brewing.
Yeah, there might be another project brewing that's sort of kind of like stepped in, So it's kind of like, it's going to be a big, happy sort of a project. So that's what I'll tease it with that. Holy, what's going on? Farshad Rouhania with another $9.99. My God.
I'm like 30 seconds behind on my chat.
Yeah, well, I've got it pulled up on my computer, so I think it might be a little bit further behind, but Farshad,
man, that's awesome, Farshad.
Holy
man,
cow.
Lighting it up there. That's fantastic.
Lighting it up. The HODL chip report. Yeah, that's it, Claire. Yeah, she got it. Wait a minute. This cannot be happening. Ajax slipping under the wire with the 5XRP.
Nice.
Oh my God, Anthony Jackson, man. What is up? Holy, what is happening tonight?
There it is,
guys. This is insane. It's insane. So yeah, right, Tina Hall. Throw in the $9.99 bombs, and you guys all throwing those XRP bombs. It's insane. G says he awesome, man. So G donated 0.32 in XRP through Coil. Could be worth $320 one day. Yeah, it could be, and it could be worth more than that, to be honest with you. So that's awesome, man. Thank you. And I love that you're on that Coil band, that you're running the Coil. I try to run it as much as possible. I just got to figure out. I think what I have to do is watch it on my Puma browser.
That's
so
right.
That it's working.
And KW said that DNI said he would give him 10,000 XRP to say that he sent me.
Only 10,000? Man, that's all he's good for? Pathetic, man. Where is DNI? Well, going once, going twice. The Blues beat the Bruins 3-2. Whoa, I was actually kind of rooting for the Bruins here. It's kind of weird. Wow, that's good, man. Good for them. Congrats. Awesome. Anyway, here we are after. But yeah, anyway, so to answer the question, some stuff is sort of kind of, we're getting there. It's a little slower than we wanted to, but we will get there, and just being pulled in some directions right now.
It's
we'll
developing
get there,
in an amazing direction.
It's going into an amazing direction. It's funny how these things bubble up. One thing leads to another thing. It's like a staircase. So, hey, Farshad, good night. Thank you. DNI, LOL. He's saying LOL. Let me translate that for you. He meant 11,000 XRP. Okay, that's a translation there. I'm reading between the L,
the O, and the L.
O, and the L. It looks like, yeah, it almost looks like a little over 11,000. I don't know. Maybe it's me.
Right.
I don't know what it is. Ajax, thank you very much. So I want to shout it down again. Just a real quick recap. So we had Auburn Rain with the 589. Anthony Jackson just hitting it up twice with 10 XRP total. RTB Dutchie with 10. Crypto Bird Dog with 5.
Ton.
This is fantastic.
Wait,
Farshad
Omar,
Rani,
Tina Hall, Farshad,
double 10 spot. Tina Hall bringing it in.
Awesome.
This is really good stuff, guys. Much appreciated. And I will shut
That's
up.
it.
Jeff,
that's it. I'm gonna get us out of here, and it's 8:11. I appreciate everybody for sticking with us through this hour, listening to our political and economic rants. I think it's awesome. Appreciate your comments. You guys are absolutely amazing. And that's it. We held through with like 50 to 60 people on the stream. Most of the hour. That's outstanding. Next goal, want to get it to 100. I'd like to see that stream at 100 and beyond. So we got to keep getting the word out, keep getting the message out, and we'll make it happen. So again, thanks everyone for being on. Thanks, Chip, and you can bring us out of here.
Okay, are you ready for this? Oh, wait a minute. Hang on a second. We got another tip coming in here under the wire. This is Auburn Rain with a 0.00589 XRP. Thank you, man. Much appreciated. You got to let us go at some point. So, guys, I'll see you all tomorrow night. That's our take. What's yours? Let us know in the comments below. Chip and HODL